Good morning and welcome. We had a little bit of a technical issue there. Sorry about that. You're listening to Bat Talk with Sharona. I'm your host. My name is Sharona. As always, I thank you for tuning in. I'm looking at Blog Talk always tries to mess me over. We're back. We've been on an extended break. Um, but we are back. We're going to try to do a podcast this morning, but it looks like Blog Talk has only set me up for 15 minutes. So I'm not sure about that. We may have to figure something else out. Trying to fix that while we're on the air. We've been on a bit of a break because for a lot of different reasons. I was exhausted. This election cycle has really was hard for me because of all the toxicity and the way things went down. And of course, now we've got one last ditch effort to try to save this country. We'll see how that goes. We came back because Monday is an important day in this country's history, and I don't have any hope that these electors are going to do the right thing. Hopefully they will do the right thing, but I don't have any hope that they will. But, we'll see how that goes. What we'll probably do is talk for about 10 more minutes, and then we'll post the podcast with my sit-down chat, chopping it up with Matt. Matt Wood and I sat down Wednesday night and had our kind of post-election. We're in kind of the dissection part of the election where we're going back and we're looking at what happened, how did we get here. The majority of this country did the right thing, voted for Hillary Clinton. She overwhelmingly won the popular vote because we have this archaic electoral thing. It allows the lunatic fringe to hijack our elections. This is the second time that that's happened, but there is still hope. The electors can do the right thing on Monday when they actually officially cast their vote. We tweeted out an article that explains that it's a long shot. It's not, there are many states have elected, have put in place laws that sort of hamper that, although the penalties are negligible. But we'll see how it goes, whether this country can in fact be saved. Not sure about that, but we'll see. So it's interesting, we're living in interesting times where the I don't want to keep saying lunatic fringe, but where the insane really have taken over the asylum, so to speak. But we took a bit of an extended break because of that, because we had there were other things to do. I've been telling people that I've been working on my bunker, and I'm not really joking when I say that. I've definitely been working on creating an environment that that is going to help, hopefully help prepare for the fight ahead. There's a battle ahead. There's a storm coming. There's a battle brewing for this country, to save this country, and it's going to take a lot of courage. It's going to take a lot of energy. It's going to take a lot of fight to save this country. And I don't want to sound like an alarmist, but it's alarming. We are living in alarming times. If you think Donald Trump isn't a threat to this country's democracy, you are fooling yourself. You're an idiot. And I do think, Matt and I talked about this a little bit. I do think that I don't know what to think about the Trump supporters. That part of the reason why I didn't really want to do a podcast. I didn't want to really talk about it. Is because I didn't know what to say, and the things that I did want to say, I wasn't sure whether I should say them or not. Um, but this is not a time um, for parsing words. This is not a time for us to um, to turn the other cheek, for us to to be conciliatory. It's interesting because you see, and listen, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, they're saying the right things. There are people who think that the Democratic Party was too nice in this election. And we are in the dissection process where people are looking at what happened, how did we get here, how did Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. That's the only thing that gives me any hope about this country, is that overwhelmingly people are not idiots. But the truth is that all the dissection in the world can't explain it. She should have won. She won the popular vote. She was the best candidate. It just, as it turns out, a very small percentage of this country is able to hijack the democratic process, and we've got to do something about the electoral system. But you can dissect what happened all you want. Listen, Hillary Clinton could have punched a baby live on television and laughed about it like the evil woman in 101 Dalmatians, and she still would have been a better candidate than Donald Trump. But she did not win according to this archaic electoral college that we use, and so here we are. We're looking at 2017, which is going to be a fight. It is going to be a fight for democracy. And if you care about democracy, if you care about this country and its people, and if you're not a selfish asshole like a lot of the Trump supporters, then you'll join the fight. You'll join the fight to save this country, and I hope that that you'll do that, because it is important. It's important that that we don't let the things that and that's the other thing. I didn't want to do a podcast because I was like, man, I don't want to say I'm superstitious, but I think in a way I am a little superstitious. All these bad things that you see, and this is why we, even leading up to the election, I was like, well, I don't want to voice all these things that I think are going to happen, which actually did happen, because you don't want to jinx it. You don't want to see the bad things happen that you're afraid are going to, that you're afraid are going to happen. So interesting times that we are living in. Monday, the electors are going to meet and cast their vote. There is still the possibility that they will do the right thing for this country, and they will select the candidate that overwhelmingly won the popular vote. Barring that, we are looking at a very much a time of repression and income disparity. The Donald Trump administration is going to be one of the most the graph is going to be amazing. If we think that we've seen terrible graph before, we're about to see it on a level that is unprecedented. They're going to siphon off resources. It's just going to be awful. We've got to band together and fight to save this country for the for the people. Donald Trump doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about this country. He doesn't care about anything but himself, really. And it's going to take a lot of energy. It's going to take a lot of courage. It's going to take a lot of fight. And I hope that we have that. That's, I said that I was working on my bunker. I was working on trying, there are a lot of things that needed to be done around the homestead to make it a better environment. And I was working on that because we're going to need that. We're going to need it for the fight that is upcoming. And again, hopefully we have the capacity to fight this. I don't know. It's hard to have hope when you see what's going on, when you see the things that are taking place, when you see the administration that Donald Trump is putting together. So I don't know, Blog Talk stays trying to mess me over. We're not able to change the time. So we only have a few minutes left in the on-air time that that Blog Talk has allotted me. So what we're going to do is finish up, and we'll assemble we'll add the interview segment that I had with Matt Wood, and then we'll post it. We'll replace this brief segment with the full podcast. So we'll post that out and on Audio Mac, and then you can check out my website, Bat Talk with Sharona, and you can find the summary and the breakdown and all the links and all of that good stuff. The hope is I wanted to do one more podcast before the end of the year, and I may actually end up doing one more. We'll probably will do one more next week, but we are going to be on kind of a holiday schedule now, not an extended hiatus like we have been. I needed time to replenish the wells for me. We fought hard here. Maybe not. I spent a lot of time wondering if there was more that I could do. But we fought hard here, and we're going to continue to fight. We're going to get back on a regular podcast schedule next year, starting at the beginning of the year. That I promise you, because we've got to fight ahead, and we've got to save this country. We've got to work to save this country. So we're going to go ahead and break, and then when we get everything assembled, we'll play that for you. Thank you for listening. Back Talk with Sharona. You can follow me on Twitter, Sports by Sharona, and look for the links to the full show.
Mira, mira. Allá viene una tormenta.
What did he just say?
He said there's a storm coming.
I know.
All right, up next is my interview with Matt Wood. We sat down Wednesday night and had our Chopping It Up segment where we talked about the election and some other things. Always a pleasure to talk to Matt and get his thoughts on everything. So stay tuned in. You are listening to Bat Talk with Sharona. When we get through playing that interview, we'll come back and do a little bit of a wrap up. We had some technical issues this morning, so we're having to kind of construct the podcast, but that's all right. We'll get by. So stay tuned in. You're listening to Bat Talk with Sharona. All right, welcome back. We're back, actually, back doing a podcast. It was bit of a break. We came back after the election. Matt and I sat down and talked a little bit about the election, post-election wrap-up, and then, I didn't intend for it to be an extended absence. And we'll talk about that in some of the reasons. We'll talk about that in a minute. But we are back doing a podcast, and hopefully we're going to be better about this next year. I've just been in a bit of a funk. This election has really, it really has bothered me in a way that none of the other elections. I've been disappointed before. So I have family things to do. So we took some time off from the podcast, but Matt's back with me. We're recording this on Wednesday night, and Matt, thank you so much. I'm so happy that we're doing this again, and I hope that we can do this semi-regularly. It's a bit of a grind. We're not going to do this through the holidays, that's for sure, because Matt and I both have other things to do. But welcome back, and thanks for joining me.
Thanks. It's good to be back.
So, we're going to talk about the election because that is the big news. And I know the stick to sports people out there, have their own thought process about, about these things. But I think it's important. What's going on in this country is really important. And I said that would get into a little bit about why the podcast has been on a bit of an extended break. This election has really bothered me. And, I think that, well, we'll talk about what I think is going to some of the concerns that I have is probably a better way to put it. But Matt, what about you? How do you feel now that we've had some time between the last time we sat down and we're seeing the cabinet that Donald Trump is putting together, and we're seeing, you and I had already talked about it. We knew the Russians were interfering in this election. It was evident to anybody with half a brain.
Oh yeah, and then the FBI came out and said, "Oh no, there's no links." And now the CIA has a secret report, and as more and more comes to light every day, it's like,
well, it was so obvious that the FBI itself was trying to influence the election, which is problematic in so many ways.
Yeah, like government agencies shouldn't be doing anything in any election unless there is an active investigation for something.
Yeah. But they didn't investigate any of this Russia stuff.
Yeah. And and here's the thing. It's like Comey could have came out there and said, "Yep, you did it. You fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
We're investigating you. Bam, there, done." Okay, he could have done that back in July, August, whenever he released his statement saying, "Hey, we're not going to press charges."
Mm-hmm.
But then to do it like 3 days before the election. Oh wait. Or a week before. Oh hey, new thing. Oh wait, and 4 days later. Oh wait, never mind.
Yeah. Yeah, that was so bad, but it should have been obvious to to anybody that had been. But I think as it turns out, I've kind of just from listening to people and not really talking politics. I'm air quoting the politics thing, but just from kind of interacting with people. It's amazing to me people actually believe the misinformation. You know,
Yeah.
the people actually believe think that memes are real. you know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, well, they, um, and I, what was it? It was like a while back. Um, and I completely dismissed it. It's like if you would hear this shit about like some sort of sports team, you would immediately dismiss it. Oh,
Mhm.
hey, the Eagles have won every Super Bowl ever.
Mhm.
You'd be like, no, they didn't. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, there was one thing from Donald Trump's Facebook page, like showing polls, right?
Mhm.
And it showed him at like 60 something percent, and Hillary at 30 something percent, and I'm like, that's not right. Like every website is
Yeah.
showing the inverse of those numbers. And it even says on there, source, NBC News. Doesn't give a link, doesn't show what time frame or anything. And yeah, I was like, well, that's complete gibberish. And, I would think people would be smarter than that, but yeah, I guess not. I
I
mean, I
think
guess.
if anything this election has taught us, it's that no, people aren't smarter than that. They're not
And,
smarter than that. They're not better informed than that. No, you
and,
know.
and you got like these, folks from the older generation saying, hey, go on to Google it. It's on Facebook. It's like, dude, you guys are the ones, in previous generations before them. It's like, don't believe everything you read, and then you're saying, oh, but on the internet, it's completely true. It's like,
Yeah.
no, it's completely like everything on the internet is fake
Yeah.
for the most part. I mean,
Yeah.
the sliver of what is real is minuscule. I mean, most of it's just really porn. Like 85% of the internet is just porn. Let's get that out of the way.
Yeah.
The rest of it is, uh, putting up, college papers and, whatever.
Whatever.
You know, but it's like a majority of the shit is just people yanking each other's chains because that's what we do as human
Yeah.
beings to, de-stress and everything is like make jokes about shit and be like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if it was like this? Oh man. I mean, it's not that hard to go, Donald Trump says something, he goes, no, I never said that, and immediately play a video. And then it's like, yeah, I never said that. It's like, how the fuck do you stand by shit like that?
Yeah, so much about this election is troubling. When one candidate um is like Donald Trump, and everything that comes out of his mouth is either not true or contradictory to something else that or both. you know
Yeah.
and then you have the flip side of that is the media kind of, and you and I talked about this, Matt, kind of treating the two, if you can call them transgressions, whatever, the two
Mhm.
stories, the big stories about the two candidates, and it was, and I saw it going down, and let's just get this out of the way, as not all of them, but generally speaking, the media did the worst job covering this election that I've ever seen.
Mm.
And I want to ask you if we have time, and we're going to be a little pressed for time. And again, I hope that we can do this more regularly. It feels good. It feels good to be back. Um, but the Nate Silver thing. Do you think Nate Silver has any credibility left?
Um, well, one with Nate Silver in 538, they were the most bullish with the polling and
Mhm.
everything. They gave Hillary a 65% chance of winning.
Mhm.
Uh, Other places, Huffington Post, Princeton, Real Clear Politics, New York Times, they all had her above 85%, all also into the 90s.
Mhm.
Now, granted, they 538 was taking all their polling data from 1972. Others have been just using it since the 90s.
Mhm.
And the whole time, Nate Silver was saying, he's like, Trump is completely unpredictable, and so we really can't rule all this out. Um,
Mhm.
And I think they're still the ones kind of ahead in all this because they didn't sit there and say, like, I mean, Huffington Post had it over 98%. Princeton had it at 99%. I mean, now you're going to go try to go back to those and go, okay. At least with Nate Silver in 538, they'll go, okay, so that's what happened. We can go back and see those patterns, and we can see if they start going again. So, yeah, all the pollsters definitely have egg on their face, but I'll say Nate Silver is the one that comes out on top.
Yeah. Okay. Did you get a chance to read that Jezebel article I sent you about the report out of Michigan?
Let me look. Probably.
It's okay. I'm just curious. We're in the
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I did read this.
Yeah, we're in the post-election dissection, so to speak. We're doing an autopsy on the election, and you're gonna get these things. There's gonna be a lot of people positing as to why Hillary Clinton did in fact lose this election. What are your thoughts on that, Matt?
Well, one, there is definitely so. In terms of like, she wins the popular vote by millions, 2 million, 2.5 million votes. Okay, so people aren't rejecting the democratic ideals; they're rejecting the candidate.
Yeah. Well, she won the popular vote, and that's how the only way I can console myself really is by repeatedly telling me that over 1 million people aren't dumb.
Yeah. Well, and like one of the things I take solace is,
more than that, but you know what I'm saying.
It's like Trump and Hillary were both unpopular.
Yeah.
And Trump is still unpopular. It's not like he automatically went to an 80% approval rating.
No, but he's scary unpopular.
Oh, yeah. And,
and that's the thing. I mean, he's scary, take away your rights. And, I mean, I wonder if the idiots who voted for him have any remorse whatsoever.
Oh, there is a website called Trump Grets, and it's pretty much from Trump voters saying, "Oh, I obviously made a mistake" and stuff. And their reasons are various, like, "Oh, you promised to drain the swamp and you're filling it full of your buddies," or the carrier thing, like saying, "What? You just gave him a bailout and he didn't keep all the jobs." Or backing away from building the wall and saying, "I'm not going to prosecute Hillary Clinton," and all that stuff. There's like numerous reasons why people are having regrets. And I mean, at the same time, a lot of folks who voted for him held their nose as they went to the polling place, knowing like, this is disgusting. I feel freaking dirty doing this. Now, granted, that's on them. Shit goes down south. They can only blame themselves. You voted for him. So, and then, with Hillary, I mean, even in this Jezebel article, it's like, it states right there, all these states were a lock, according to all the data. So why spend time campaigning at a place and, you should focus your attention elsewhere? It's like, no, you should, if you want to keep whatever you want, you got to stay. And that's where Trump went. Trump went to like these places that, that's it, because then he had to go to places where it was going to be an uphill battle for him to win. And I mean, even Bernie Sanders, and you know what? And the Bernie Sanders win in Michigan should have been a little bit of the writing on the wall, because, and I believe he won Wisconsin too. I'm not too sure. He didn't win Pennsylvania. He did win Wisconsin.
Yes, he did. He did win Wisconsin. Yeah.
So it's like you got two states right there that went Trump, and it's like Bernie campaigned heavily there because they all thought like, oh, Hillary's going to get Michigan and Wisconsin, and that wasn't the case. I mean, Bernie and Trump speak to that. Hey, you're being screwed by people. Which is true. They are being screwed by people. But, Donald Trump's like, whatever, you're being screwed by other people. And Bernie Sanders is like, you're being screwed by people like Donald Trump. And I mean, and look at his picks for the cabinet. Jesus Christ, I have never seen such a rogues gallery of unqualified people.
Oh, it's a nightmare, and this is a good time to talk a little bit about, if Matt will allow me just to ramble a bit, talk a little bit about why I went on such an extended break. It really, I have been just beside myself about this, and how completely and utterly idiotic this country is, and the ramifications. And it's worse than idiotic because of what we're seeing with the cabinet and everything else. And I broke out in hives. I mean, I started to have like, and it's social media and the internet. You mentioned it earlier, Matt. It's like kind of a toxic environment at times, a lot of the time, maybe even most of the time anyway. And so I was like, it's a good time to just, have a break and get away and do some things, family wise that needed to be done that we were already working on and doing. So anyway, and it really was a big help, for me. But I got a chance to to be around some of the people who I'm pretty sure voted for Donald Trump. And having to, the things that you want to say versus the things that you do say is, we try to keep it real. But I've really struggled with, what do you say to these people? And because I want to say, you're either sexist, racist, idiotic, dumb, stupid, or all of it. I mean, or ill-informed or whatever. But when it's a family member, you really can't say those things.
And this is how I put it. It's like you got 12 cookies on the table, right? Rich guy comes up and takes 11. He tells the middle class guy, "Hey, watch out for that poor guy. He's going to take your cookie." And it's like they don't see that part. They don't see like folks being screwed over by systems of power. It's either A, the government screwed you, or B, like an immigrant, poor person, woman, whatever screwed you.
I mean, and that's, to me, that's one of the biggest cons that Donald Trump pulled. I mean, you had all this evidence of people that he had personally screwed over. The lawsuits and the people that he didn't pay, and just everything.
Yeah.
And yet she's the shady one. It just ugh.
And here's like the thing, what we do with wealth, at least in this country, I'm sure it happens in other countries as well, is we associate wealth, one, with success. Yeah, if you made that money your own, yes, you're successful. If you just got it handed to you, you didn't really do anything to get it.
Well, successful, but listen, a lot of very wealthy people made their money out of fleecing people. A lot of them. In fact, I might even say the majority of them. And it's always interesting to me. Charlie Daniels is a guy that comes to mind, who kind of made his stick. He made his living in whatever, poor boy, country boy, long-haired country boy. I get stoned in the morning, that kind of thing. But now he's like the biggest conservative. If they, those kind of people, when they get theirs and get their money and their power and what have you, they don't want to share it.
Yeah, it's the fuck you, I got mine mentality. And, it's like, and we get like this thing crammed into us of, whether it's, a person's religion or just some sort of deep, American attitude, of like good, if you're good, you'll be rewarded. So
Mhm.
if you have a lot of money, you are rewarded. You
Mhm.
must be good, and that's obviously not the case. I mean, like Jesus
Well,
Christ.
it's a very biblical point of view, and there are still people who believe that, and then they also believe the reverse. If you're not successful, if something bad happens, if you're a failure, it's because you're a bad person.
Yeah, and I think that's that. I mean that's got to be deep seated in a lot of folks' brains, and that's why maybe poor people call themselves middle class instead of poor.
Mhm.
Um, you know,
Yeah.
uh, and also because poor is bad,
Yeah.
uh, and also deride everything else. It's like,
Well,
oh, I don't know
yeah.
help. I don't need any help. I'll get there. I'm a good person. I'm working hard.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but you're being fleeced by folks. Whether it's your local government, doing shady shit, or a local business, or your employer or something.
Yeah.
It's like someone's dicking with you, dude. You, you
Yeah.
got you got to stop and look. Your problems sometimes are not, the guy next to you.
Yeah.
So it's just, I mean, and I'm speaking in generalizations. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
it
And
could be the government did cause this for something for you to happen, and it could have been your business that caused this to happen. But it's like, you have to see why something happened. You can't just go, oh, yep, this obviously this meme with this nice frog on it. Obviously, yep, that's got to be my problem. I mean, and that gets into psychology and just people,
is
folks. It's like if you can blame something, then the responsibility is off of you, right?
Let me ask you this, and we're not going to have a lot of time to go into detail, but when Matt and I were just kind of brainstorming for this, I told him some of the things I wanted to talk about, and he was he was on board with them, and we kind of got off on a tangent. We're not going to have time to talk about really any of them, but I want to ask you about the Electoral College, just real quick. Has it ever really worked? Was it ever a good idea?
In 1800 and 1824, depending on if they're good or bad, but the House of Representatives had to decide the presidency because of the Electoral College hang-ups. Um, it's really going to come down to December 19th. It's like if you're just going to go stay the course, then just get the fuck rid of it. It's
Yeah.
it's like if you're just going to do this, it's the whole purpose, as shown in the Federalist Papers, is to hey, sometimes the country might be dumb. Maybe someone may buy some elections, maybe a foreign country. Now at that time they're thinking England or France to prop up their someone a little bit more loyal to them.
Mhm.
Um, it's all set up to protect the majority or the minority from the majority. So it'll be interesting. Now, the thing is like, one, Hillary's not going to be president. It's not going to be a Democrat who's going to be president. If enough electors say, oh, no to Trump, it'll be a Republican who ran for president. Now, that could have been John Kasich, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz. Jesus, imagine that. But at the end of the day, I think it's still gonna be Trump.
Mhm.
I don't see the Electoral College doing anything different, regardless of any sort of intelligence briefings that they may get. So it's gonna be Trump, and
Yeah.
it's gonna be a interesting ride. I mean, Obama's last address to the nation. That's what he's going to do.
Yeah.
Before he God bless America, he's going to light himself a joint. He's going to take the biggest drag, and he's going to be like, "Buckle up, America. We're in
Yeah.
for a bumpy ride."
Yeah, it's funny. I hope that before he does officially leave office, I saw that John Legend wrote him an open letter asking him to commute the sentences of nonviolent drug offenders, and hopefully he'll get the DEA to get off the state's backs. And they're already loosening up, and maybe one day we'll see marijuana, weed, decriminalized everywhere. Uh, yeah, Barack Obama. I already miss him. It's
Yeah.
kind of fun. And listen, I've had my issues with the Obama. You're not going to agree with
Right.
anybody 100% of the time. And you know, I understand we live in troubling times and terrorists and all of that, but the stifling of our civil liberties under his Department and this Yahoo thing, all the intrusion into our privacy. And I mean,
Hmm.
I'm starting, I mean, I understand, and we've got whack jobs out there who, it's an interesting time to be alive. But we're going to be talking about this over the next, few months and into the spring and summer. But I really feel like I have a friend. I don't know if I mentioned this to you. We'll finish up with this. I don't know if I mentioned this to you, Matt. I think I told my buddy Zach on my Wednesday night show, and that's why I've got to run. We're getting ready to start that show. But I have a friend who legitimately believes we're living in the end of times because but nowhere in the Bible, in prophecy, in biblical prophecy, or any other prophecy, is United States mentioned. It's not existent. And there are other things, the weather, the climate, and the catastrophic things that we're seeing, and famine, and all that. It's all mentioned in prophecy. And I know your situation, but I don't know that I subscribe to that, but I definitely feel like we are seeing the end of the United States as a sovereign nation. I think we are literally watching it right now.
Hmm.
And it's kind of surreal to me. And this country's okay with it. We elected a guy who's heavily involved in it.
Yep.
And
It's
I just never ever thought this country would sell itself out like that. I don't know why. I mean, all evidence to the contrary, but
yeah. It's
I'm
yeah.
really worried about what's going to happen. I mean, I am. I'm really worried about what's going to happen. So I don't mean to be depressing, Matt, but that is my thought.
Well, and it's weird. Is like, well, not weird, but you have I mean, you already have Republican senators and congressmen. Granted, they're the few, but they are saying like, no, you're not going to pull this shit.
Yeah,
Um, whether it's enough to stop anything, who knows?
yeah.
Um, Same thing with Supreme Court shit. Who knows? So
Yeah, interesting stuff. Matt, it was such a pleasure. I'm sure, I'm so glad that we did this and we're going to be doing this. And we're going to take some time off over the holidays. But, in January, I hope that you'll come back and we'll continue. I'm sure we'll have more information and we'll continue to talk about these things.
oh yeah, can't wait.
Yeah, me too. Have a great evening, Matt.
Thanks, you too.
All right. Good night.
Don't wanna be an American idiot. Don't want a nation under the new media.
All right. Once again, we apologize for all the technical issues from this morning. But hey, we are back. We actually did a podcast, and it feels good to be back. It definitely does feel good to be back. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel coming back and doing a podcast. I knew that I wanted to, I knew that we needed to, But there's only so much. There's only so much that you can take, and this election really has, the toxicity and everything really did. It had started to affect my health, and in order to continue the fight, I had to get healthy. I had to get everything in place so that, so that I could fight, and we're going to fight. We're not going to go down without a fight. And, if you care about this country, if you care about its people, if you care about democracy, if you're not a selfish asshole, you will join the fight for this country. There's a lot of good people here, and they are worth fighting for. And we cannot let Donald Trump and his cronies ruin this great nation. And it's one of the better articles that I read, and we tweeted this out. We're going to tweet all the articles out again. Autocracy: Rules for Survival by Masha Gessen, over at New York Review of Books Daily, and commentary about what it's going to take and what it means to live in an autocracy. And don't kid yourself. That's what we're facing. We are facing a time of repression and the siphoning of resources from you and me and the rest of this country is going to be unprecedented, and we're going to have to fight. The first thing that we're going to have to fight is his efforts. He's already been a little bit successful, but the efforts to take over the media. The media did a terrible job with this election. It's going to continue to be terrible. We're going to have to monitor the media as never before. We're going to have to. One of the things that was interesting about this break is that I was able to get out and hobnob, so to speak, with with your average. I don't know what that means. What is an average American? But with with people, and the ignorance is astounding. People actually believe these fake stories that Facebook was promoting. Shame on you, Facebook. The the dumbing down of the electorate is pretty amazing. And here's something that we're going to tackle in the year of our Lord 2017. We're going to try to save 2017. This is what we're going to tackle. I don't know how many times I heard, well, I don't like to talk politics. I don't want to talk politics with other people. We've got to stop that, because we can't have an informed citizenry unless we have these conversations. Difficult conversations are not easy. I mean, that's kind of an oxymoron, right? Having a hard conversation is essential, though, to a democracy, and we got to start having hard conversations with ourselves about who we are, about what we've got, about where we are and what we want this country to be. So we are going in 2017. We're going to tackle the topic of difficult conversations, the stick to sports people, the people who don't want to have these hard, the lazy ass people who don't want to have these hard, difficult conversations. Well, guess what? We've got to have them. It's the only way to have an informed citizenry. So that's kind of one of our missions for 2017. We'll come back next week and have some more conversations about some of the things that we're going to do. So that's it for today. We actually managed to kind of construct a show, and we'll be posting this online. You can find it. Check out my Twitter feed, Sports by Sharona, and you can find it. Facebook. I don't Facebook much, but it'll be on my Facebook. If you want to hook up on Facebook, just send me a tweet. We'll talk about it and what have you. Have a great weekend. Happy Friday. And we'll definitely be back next week with hopefully a full live podcast. We won't have to do all of this. I hope that you have a wonderful weekend. Stay warm, and thanks for listening. You've been listening to Bat Talk with Sharona. I am your host. My name is Sharona. And again, you can follow me on Twitter, Sports by Sharona.